Good Thursday afternoon to you. I hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. A little later in the show, Ryan Cavanaugh will be along to preview some of the top games in Northeast Ohio high school football. We'll also hear opposition talk. Plenty of Kansas City Chiefs talking about the matchup with the Browns, and that's where we will begin, talking about the Browns getting ready for the Kansas City Chiefs. Some news before we get things rolling. Myles Garrett back on the field practicing, but Jadeveon Clowney, again, did not practice with the team due to illness, not COVID related. The Browns hope to get him back within the next day or so he will be good to go against Kansas City. But again, Clowney ill, not practicing. Joe Woods says he thinks he'll be able to get back on the field, but we will see what we will see. Also, some news out of Baltimore where the Ravens just continue to get beat up with the injury bug before they even play a football game, as Gus Edwards and also Marcus Peters, knee injuries believed to be somewhat significant, back-to-back plays at practice. Ravens cut practice short. They do not play until Monday night against the Las Vegas Raiders. But Gus Edwards' knee injury is expected to be pretty significant, and he is already the second running back for the Ravens. So the Ravens down to their third-string running back for the first game of the season. We'll keep an ear out on that, but again, Ravens believed to have lost another starting running back. Dobbins and Gus Edwards down with what appears to be pretty significant knee injuries. Well, Joe Woods met with the media, all the coordinators did, and Joe Woods talked about the challenges that the Browns face with the skill positions of the Chiefs, how talented they are, and how the Browns' upgraded defense is equipped to handle them.
I would say it's, first of all, you look at the ability they have at all their skill positions. Then it's what they do offensively. I think Coach Reid, Coach Bieniemy, they do a great job. They really scheme you up. They stress out your coverage. They make you cover the field vertically and horizontally. And then when you do it right, you have to make a tackle. So tough to defend, good scheme, good players. But we feel good where we're at, and we just have to execute. I definitely feel the speed. Just the guys we drafted, the guys we signed in free agency, and the NFL. The game's changing. It's like playing basketball on grass. Against some teams, they want to spread the field, get you one-on-one, and see if you can make a tackle. So, getting more speed, guys that have more cover skills, really at all three levels of the defense is critical in today's football.
Let's welcome in the D-Man, Dennis Manoloff, WTAM 106.9 FM. Lot to unpack there in that initial segment, D-Man. Joe Woods and the defense upgrade to speed. That's something that'll get tested right away with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, the Chiefs have a ton of weapons, led by Patrick Mahomes, of course, the best quarterback in the NFL, not named Tom Brady. And one of our own, Cleveland's own, Travis Kelce, the best tight end in the game. They have the incredible vertical speed, thanks to, in large part, Tyreek Hill. I mean, they can beat you in so many ways, and I know their offensive line is revamped. I think 3 rookies will be starting Sunday, but still, with Mahomes behind center or, wherever he's lined up, pistol, shotgun, whatever it is, he's going to be able to escape the pass rush, you would think, because he's as healthy as he's going to be all season. So you can't bank on, a new offensive line in front of Patrick Mahomes automatically means you're going to pressure Patrick Mahomes. And, yeah, the Chiefs' offense is tremendous, and, they're going to gain a lot of confidence, not only from the fact that they are the Chiefs and they're basically invincible in September under Reid and Mahomes, but also that in the divisional round last year against the Browns, they only had Mahomes for 2.5 quarters and still won the game. So I think the Chiefs, and they're at home with a crowd as opposed to last year when there wasn't much of a crowd. I think the Chiefs are in a really good spot.
All right. One of the new guys that the Browns signed, John Johnson, the safety, he talked about Patrick Mahomes facing him and what you have to do when you're facing Patrick Mahomes.
I think you just got to be disciplined. You know, they make all scheduled, all script plays. If you keep the quarterback in the pocket, you got a good chance. You keep guys in front of you, you got a great chance. If you tackle as soon as they catch the ball, you got a great chance. So all of those things, we got to really be on top of it and just go from there.
With him, with Mahomes, in your safety spot, is there something that he does that makes life toughest for you? I mean, you know, you think of him scrambling, you think about the big arm. From your job, like, which of those is the hardest to deal with?
Right, I think it's a combination of, like you said, off script plays and the big arm. He could be fading backwards. You think the play is over, and he can get the ball to pretty much anywhere on the field. So just the arm talent is really something you got to, you know, be cautious of and really just stay on your guy, like, until the whistle blows, literally every single snap.
And D-Man, that's a very valid point. The play is never over with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback.
That's correct. And John Johnson III, I mean, we have celebrated his acquisition. Well, guess what? The Browns need him right out of the gate because he has to play well in order for them to have a chance to beat Patrick Mahomes and to slow that offense. And truly, Dave Bacon, to me, the best defense against Mahomes is going to be the Cleveland Browns offense. The Browns offense must control the ball for a good chunk of time. That's how you keep Mahomes down, is when he's on the sidelines and he's unable to come out there. They need to possess the ball. They need to use their veteran line, their now veteran line with all that experience, and their running game and controlled passing game to keep the Chiefs off the field. Easier said than done. And honestly, Dave, Kevin Stefanski, he kind of alluded to it yesterday. He needs to be better. Stefanski has to call a better game than he did in the divisional round when they lost 22-17.
So Pro Football Focus came up with matchups to watch for each of the Week 1 games. And for the Browns-Chiefs game, this is going to be an interesting one. It's going to be a critical one. Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney against the new Chiefs tackles, Orlando Brown Jr. from the Ravens, and then Lucas Niang, who's a young guy. If the Browns can win the battle up front, they got a chance.
No, there's no question. First of all, Clowney, we need Clowney to be out there if you're rooting for the Browns, as I am and you are. Clowney's got to be able to overcome this illness. I mean, I'm thankful that it's not COVID related, but you know, I want to see those two bookends go to work as healthy as they can possibly be. Now, maybe even if Clowney plays, he's not 100% because of the illness, but he needs to be out there as part of this because you know Joe Woods and most D coordinators who go up against Mahomes, they would much prefer the conventional rush. You know, they want to get the max value out of their four-man rush in this case because the more blitzers you send at Mahomes, the better he gets, it seems. And they need more DBs. They need more linebackers in coverage. They can't afford to be blitzing Mahomes and have him beat them for big plays. So it is absolutely imperative that Garrett and Clowney take advantage of that matchup on the edges.
So Joel Bitonio also talked to the media today, and Bitonio is a guy that's been with the Browns, longest tenured Browns. So the question to him is, how are you guys doing with higher expectations? Because everybody's talking them up. Here's what Bitonio said about the higher expectations for the Browns.
For me, it's easy because we got to go out and do it. You know what I mean? There's been nothing given to us, and we got to play 17 games here, and we got to try and win as many as possible because we're in one of the toughest divisions in football, and every week's going to be a battle, you know. And for players, I think we have a mindset of, like, you have to go out there and earn it each week you play. You know, each time you put on the helmet, you earn the ability to be a good team, and that's what we're working on. We're just trying to work to put ourselves in position at the end of the year and see where we're at.
And again, I know you don't like the hype. I like the way they're handling the hype much better.
You always put up the hands.
We'll talk to the hands, but it's a recurring message that has been drilled into them. You know, go out and earn it.
Yeah, the Browns have said all the right things in this endless offseason that the NFL, unfortunately, given that it doesn't play all that many games relative, for example, to the NHL or NBA or MLB, you have such a long period of time, especially if you were bounced out early in the playoffs or even, late in the playoffs and didn't get to the Super Bowl. It's like an interminable time between the end of the season and the start of camp. And then camp seems to go forever. And now you're finally here. So during that long period of time, I haven't heard any Browns saying anything wacky or crazy that that the Chiefs are going to use for motivation and greaser board material. Maybe the Browns can use Patrick Mahomes' comment that he wants to go 20-0. But you know what? I would hope every team would be motivated to go 20-0. So I don't think Mahomes and the Chiefs are unique about that. But I was listening to Tom Brady, I think it was yesterday. Tom Brady was talking about the Buccaneers and, all right, they're the defending Super Bowl champion, but he was saying, well, we're not really defending it once we get started. It's a new season. We were the champs last year. This year is all new. It's a totally different slate. And I'm pretty sure that Bruce Arians, the coach, and Brady and the rest of those guys have that same mindset. So if it's good enough for Tampa to turn the page on a Super Bowl year, a Super Bowl winning year, it should be good enough for the Browns to put last year in a nice little box and store it away and say, hey, thanks for the memories, but we got to get started on a new year.
All right, so before we go to break, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in Baltimore. So top of the show, I touched on it. It appears Baltimore fears that both Gus Edwards and Marcus Peters have torn their ACLs in practice today on consecutive plays. So they cut practice short. But now the Ravens are looking at no J.K. Dobbins, no Gus Edwards, and Marcus Peters is a heck of a cornerback. So that's before you've played it down in 2021. Ravens are limping into the season opener.
Yeah. Well, let me say this, Dave, right off the rip. First and foremost, I never wish injury on anybody, okay? I don't care. I can't stand the Baltimore Ravens as a franchise for obvious reasons, but I would never wish ill on any of their players. And that's a really sad situation if indeed that's true about Peters and Edwards. And as we know, Dobbins is done for the year. That's really terrible for Baltimore. And, one of the reasons you don't wish ill on anybody as far as injuries go, or you don't revel in it, is because it could easily happen to you or the team that you like. So,
yep.
I feel for the Ravens on that part of it. I do remember when Dobbins went down, I was checking some social media and they were saying, well, as good as Dobbins is, we've got Gus Edwards. He'll be fine. The running game will be fine because of Gus Edwards. So now, if he's out, that really does change the complexion of things, and who knows what's going to happen there.
Yep. So what will immediately likely happen? They signed Le'Veon Bell to the practice squad. He'll be the backup, and they like Taysom Williams, a young rookie. But again, the Ravens down to their third running back before Week 1's game. All right, the D-man, Dennis Manoloff, and I can step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Dan Orlovsky on how the Browns can beat the Chiefs, the formula for success. Straight ahead, Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
Sports4CLE continues. We continue talking Browns football with D-Man, Dennis Manoloff. All right, Dan Orlovsky, who has been a a very vocal supporter of the Browns and Baker Mayfield, on the recipe for how the Browns can beat the Chiefs Week 1.
They're going to score 30 a game just showing up. Just showing up. So you can't think, oh, we're just going to run the football, because here's the thing. If you run the football, you slow the game down, you minimize your possessions, you better score every possession. You better almost be perfect in every possession. If you look at great offenses in the NFL, they score a touchdown or a field goal on 50% of their drives. The 07 Patriots that we talked about with Brady this morning, they scored on 51%. That is outstanding. You can't do that against the Chiefs run game wise and think that you're going to win. You have to go score 40. That Raiders game last year, they had 5 plays. 5 that covered over 40 yards. The Browns are capable of doing it, but they have to go, and this is their philosophy for the 9,000th time for people at home. They are a throw-first football team. The Cleveland Browns want to pass the ball early, run the ball late. The only chance to beat the Kansas City Chiefs is to think that you have to go score 40-plus points. You are not going to do that, turning around and handing the ball off.
And D-Man, I know what you're thinking. I've been kind of that school of thought. They're going to throw the ball early, and then if they get ahead of you, then they're going to try to let the clock kind of wind and wind and wind.
Dave, can you scrub the first segment where I said the Browns' blueprint is to keep Mahomes on the sideline and basically control the clock so he doesn't get as much time on the field? Because I love Dan Orlovsky, so I'm going to defer to him to a degree. I get what he's saying. Mahomes is capable of an 80-yard touchdown pass every time he goes out there. So he could sit on the sideline and watch you matriculate the ball down the field for 7 minutes and settle for 3, while he goes right back and answers with an 80-yard touchdown, and now you're down 7-3, despite the fact that he's only had the ball for a few seconds. But the reason I said to a degree with Orlovsky is, what's the alternative? The alternative could very well be Baker thinks he's got to get in a shootout. Stefanski thinks he's got to get in a shootout with Mahomes. They throw it. The Chiefs' defense is, stout, and all of a sudden the Browns are turning over the ball, not necessarily turnovers, but possession-wise, real quickly. And so just because you think you need to throw the ball a lot early and run it late, as Orlovsky says, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to complete all those passes that you need to complete, let alone score all the points you need to score. So there has to be a delicate balance there. The one thing is, I'm sure Stefanski cannot go into this game thinking, looking at a certain score and saying, all right, well, I'm pretty sure that those guys are going to score 35, so I've got to score 36 or more. I don't think that would make any sense.
No, and you know what? He's far too smart of a head coach to do that. You kind of see where the game's going, and you know who you are, and you want to be true to who you are. Well, John Johnson talked about just the unique skill set that the offensive weapons for the Kansas City Chiefs have.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like any other offense, but they're definitely a great offense. You definitely got to put the work in on the film. You got to be ready to play that team. You can't just cakewalk your way through that game. You got to really be disciplined every single play. But they got weapons. A lot of teams in the league, they have weapons, but I think they have, like you said, unique weapons. Tyreek is probably like the fastest guy in the league. Kelsey's probably the best tight end in the league. So they have unique weapons, but there are a lot of teams with a lot of different weapons. So it's really just being disciplined every single snap.
And that's a recurring thing that John Johnson has said when he's talking about the Chiefs. You have to be disciplined. You have to be disciplined. Every answer has, we have to do what we're supposed to do and be disciplined.
Yeah, listen, trying to deal with the Chiefs at any time of year, this iteration of the Chiefs has got to be incredibly difficult if you're a defense. Dealing with them right out of the gate is, to me, the worst possible scenario. All I have to do is recognize that Andy Reid is a great coach out of the box. He's a great coach in September. Part of the reason he's a great coach in September is Patrick Mahomes. As I get my phone out here, Dave Bacon, I read you the numbers from Mahomes in September. 10-0, 32 touchdowns, 0 picks, 330 passing yards per game, 370 passes without a pick. He has more wins in September, 10, than he has been sacked, 9. So this is a guy already a great player, already an MVP, destined for the Hall, would be in the Hall in my mind right now if he didn't play another down. That's how great he's been in his short time here in the NFL. And on top of him being great, he feels invincible in September. So this is going to be an incredibly difficult matchup for Cleveland.
Yeah, and you know, the Browns have all those new pieces. Joe Woods talked about those free agents that the Browns brought in and what he thinks they'll bring to this defense and how comfortable he is with where they're at.
I think you always have questions. You go through the preseason, you make those evaluations, but everybody doesn't play. I feel good in terms of where we're at, but it's going to be that first game, that pressure. It's a big game, hostile environment. But I think we're ready to go, and we'll see what happens.
Joe, how much does it help that while you have new faces, a lot of them are guys with experience that have been on the big stage in big games before?
I think that's critical. I mean, part of the free agent process, we wanted to bring some guys in that had veteran experience. So if you look at John Johnson, Troy Hill, I was with Malik Jackson, Anthony Walker, all those guys have played in big games. So you feel that comfort because you know they have that leadership. They've been there, done that, and it's really been a bunch of good additions to our defense.
Now, D-Man, if you're looking for an advantage for the Browns, Chiefs don't have any idea what Joe Woods' scheme is going to look like with all the additions they've had. Flip side of that is there could be some communication breakdowns that are not great for the Browns' defense.
Yeah, and this is where, it's got to be, I wouldn't say frustrating for Joe Woods at all, but the right word is probably, tempting. Like, how much does he want to go unconventional? How much does he want to blitz? When to blitz? When to zone drop, perhaps? How many wrinkles does he want to throw into this, knowing the caliber of offense that he's facing, knowing the quarterback that he's facing? It's easy for us on the outside, sitting on our couch or recliner watching on TV. Oh, here's a spot for a blitz, or why don't you throw something exotic at Mahomes? Well, guess what? You think Mahomes isn't capable of solving Rubik's cubes, different types of looks? So Woods has got decisions to make basically on every down. How does he want to attack Mahomes? And I'm sure he would probably get, over the course of the game, he'd probably get something from Stefanski. Like, if Stefanski wants him to play vanilla and wants Mahomes to try to beat them in a methodical way, then Woods will comply. I don't know how much autonomy Stefanski will give Woods in this situation. Maybe he gives him 100%. And if that's the case, Woods has decisions to make on every down.
All right, let me ask you this. What are you watching for this game? Chiefs-Browns, probably one of the best games week one. What are you watching matchup-wise? What are you glued to?
No question about it. I'm glued to the Bake Show, and I know that's an easy answer, but I'm going back to the divisional series game, which, as you know, Dave, I continue to grind on. It bothers me to this second. The Browns' offense did not look good against the Chiefs. Now, you credit the Chiefs for a decent defense. Okay, fine. But 17 points with most of your weapons. Admittedly, not Odell. I understand that. They didn't have Odell Beckham Jr. But they had enough to score more than 27 or more than 17 points in that game. especially late. That last drive was a disaster. That last possession, I don't even want to call it a drive. So I'm going to be watching the Browns offense and how it responds to that clunker from last year, the last game they played that matters. How does the Bake Show look against the Chiefs defense? How does Stefanski look after his subpar play calling performance in the divisional round? So my first focus is going to be on the Browns offense. Now, it's very possible that Mahomes forces me to watch him and the gang go to work right away if they get up big. But my first priority is going to be seeing if the Browns offense can solve the various riddles that the Chiefs defense presents.
All right, the D-man, Dennis Manoloff, and I going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, a bold prediction from Bart Scott at ESPN. Got to stick around to hear this one. I have a feeling we're going to be replaying this quite a bit this football season. Sports for CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Welcome back to Sports for CLE. We're going to continue talking Browns. Take a listen to what Bart Scott, former linebacker, this is his bold prediction on the Browns from ESPN's Get Up.
Can Baker Mayfield lead a team that has high expectations? I don't think so. Guess what, Greeny? The Cleveland Browns don't make the playoffs. Yeah, clip this clip. I said it, 2 tears in a bucket.
We will definitely clip that clip and remind Bart Scott of this prediction, one way or another.
What was Scott? What did he do on the field?
He was a lineman. Yeah, he had issues with.
The one time where he screamed, I can't remember what he said.
Apparently, he had issues with Odell too. But
I mean, everybody's entitled to his opinion.
Yep.
Let Scott say. I mean, I'm sure he's saying what he said just so that he can get clicks or views or what have you. And maybe he does truly believe it. Okay, not everybody in the world thinks the Browns are incredible and destined for greatness. There are plenty, and I don't know how many people actually. I wouldn't say plenty, but I'm sure there are pockets, including, of course, Scott, who don't believe the Browns are all that great. It's not going to be easy because they're going to have to beat the Ravens. And by the way, let me say this, Dave, on a little bit of a tangent. I apologize to you and to the viewers over the past few months. I continue to say that the Baltimore Ravens deserve the utmost respect because they're the defending division champs. I forgot the Steelers won the division last year. That 11-0 start somehow escaped me. So I was mistaken multiple times. I did it on my radio show too, claiming that the Ravens were the defending champs. I still think the Ravens deserve a lot of respect. I think they should be favored to win the division this year, even though the Steelers are defending champ. But it's not going to be an easy path for Cleveland. And I'll say this too. Here's what I want to say to Browns fans in particular. If game 1 goes south and the Chiefs dominate, or even if the Chiefs win by, less than a touchdown, don't panic. It's only one game, and I'm not going to worry about it if the Browns lose to the Chiefs in week 1 because of how good the Chiefs are.
The other thing I would say is what Kevin Stefanski said last year after the Ravens loss, which was not good in week 1. Don't ride the wave. So if the Browns win, that's great. That's a really good win. And if they lose, it's okay. They're going to be playing 16 more games after that first one. All right, so you mentioned we hear from Bart Scott. Take a look at this tweet from Seth Walder. He is ESPN Sports analytics writer. Tweets out, Super Bowl predictions, Browns over the Packers. So that would be a rematch of that Christmas night game. So there you have it, the opposite ends of the spectrum. And that's an analytics-driven guy. Am I going to get the hands and the pump the brakes sign from the D-man?
Yes. Yes. I mean, listen, we know that the Browns are darlings of the analytics crowd. They've invested a lot of capital, a lot of mind power, their Ivy League tower in analytics and forward thinking. And of course, you know, the organization, the franchise was ridiculed early, but now more and more people are coming around to the way the Browns were doing things before, and, you know, under the DePodesta, Barry scenario, or specifically DePodesta. So it doesn't surprise me whenever someone from the analytics heavy crowd says the Browns are going to be really good. I would be delighted beyond belief if it's Browns-Packers, because Aaron Rodgers, you know, outside of any members of the Browns, Aaron Rodgers is one of my top 3 favorite players in the league. So I would love to see that matchup. But, yeah, I mean, talk to me. Here's the thing, Dave. And I'll talk to me and talk to that, and I'll have that analytics guy talk to me after game 1. If the Cleveland Browns go out and handle the Kansas City Chiefs, which I don't think is going to happen, but if they do, then I won't do this anymore. I'll be like, we're going to the Super Bowl, baby.
All right. Fair enough. All right. So Browns offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt talked about year 2 of this offense. Remember, they returned everybody that started from a season ago, and then they also get Odell Beckham Jr. back. Van Pelt talked about year 2 in the same system.
Yeah, it's always great when you come back into the same system. You know, like you said, that last year we were kind of feeling our way through. You know, the pandemic didn't help with the no practice in the OTAs. That was tough to put in a system, you know, virtually. So the bumps in the road early, we expect those to be smoothed out this year moving forward. We do have a group that understands what we're trying to accomplish. We have a quarterback that's now in the second year of the system that understands more of the reads and the progressions, and he's been great all spring and in this camp. So we're excited. We've got a great group of guys. That's probably the biggest thing in that group, that offensive group. I love them all. They're all, you know, professionals, good people, and work their butts off. So I'm excited about the future of this team.
So what do you expect from Baker in his 4th year and, like you said, 2nd year in the system?
I expect him to play like he did as he finished up the season last year after the bye week. I think he really had great control of what we were trying to accomplish. Did an outstanding job of protecting the football and protecting the team. Had a really good understanding of the system, you know, and the plays and the reads and the progressions and the protections as well. So a continuation of that.
And if they get Baker Mayfield from the second half of last year for an entire season, he ascends up that ranking chart as far as NFL quarterbacks, and this offense becomes very problematic for defenses.
You would think, first of all, I love AVP. I kind of wish he were calling plays, but, you know, that's something that Kevin Stefanski's decided he wants to do again this year. We'll see how well it goes, but you know, we know Van Pelt's done wonders with Baker Mayfield's mechanics, specifically his footwork. He's a great offensive mind. As far as the Browns' tools, yeah, you would think that, you know, they have plenty of weapons to put pressure on a defense. Odell coming back is great. I like what Baker said yesterday when he was like, when he said, hey, people don't realize how fast Odell Beckham Jr. actually is. And I think he's right there, because we get caught up in Beckham's high wire acts, his, you know, high flying, snatch catching ability, but we don't really focus on his high end, hop end speed. And that's something the Browns desperately need against the Chiefs in particular, because the Chiefs have speed for days, and the Browns need to be able to stretch the field. So Beckham gives them an additional dimension there that a guy like Jarvis or Rashard Higgins or even DPJ wouldn't be able to do. They've got the great running backs. One of the things that I thought was a mistake last year in the divisional round, Dave, was I didn't feel like Kareem Hunt was used as much as he should have been. So, I know you got Chubb back there too, but I really hope that Kareem Hunt is utilized more by Kevin Stefanski when he goes up against the Chiefs in particular.
The D-Man, Dennis Manoloff, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we will have our Sports4CLE 4-pack, a pick 4. 4 picks against the spread. D-Man and I going head-to-head. We'll keep track of this all season long. We'll also hear from John Johnson again on taking how much time it'll take for the defense to gel. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Welcome back to Sports4CLE. We continue talking Browns football. So one of the concerns, Browns signed a number of veteran free agents, new guys. So there's going to be a lot of new guys on the defensive side of the football for the Browns that will play major roles. John Johnson, one of the main guys, the safety, asked, is he concerned at all about it taking a while for that defense to gel?
I don't think so. I think this defense is built up, I guess, made up of guys with experience, guys that have played in big games, guys that have played on great defenses, guys that are true professionals. So I think, we've been here all training camp working at it. I think, we're in a good situation. As we move throughout the season, we'll obviously gel even more, but going into week 1, I think we'll be fine.
Now that you've been teammates with Miles for a few months, as good as advertised, better than advertised?
I'll say better. I mean, when he's beating DBs to the ball, you can't make that up. You can talk about it, but when you're running on the field, you can't make it up. So I think he's all around great player.
And Dean, I think the pieces around him are going to really make Myles Garrett that much better this year.
Yeah, Myles, he's a great player. There's no doubt about it. But, he needs help. He can't be the only guy out there who's dominating. And I think he has other impact-type players who can support him and make this defense formidable. But we still have to see it.
Without question. All right, here. Time for our favorite part of the show. The Sports4CLE Pick 4. You've heard of a Pick 6. This is a Pick 4. We're going 4 games against the spread that we like. All right, Dennis, let's start. Browns and the Chiefs, and I think we differ on this one. It's a 5.5-point favorite for the Chiefs. 5.5 favorites are the Chiefs. Who you taking?
I'm taking the Chiefs. Don't at me. Don't throw anything at me. For the reasons that I stated earlier in this show, Dave, that the invincibility of Patrick Mahomes in September, the dominance of Andy Reid in September, I just think the Chiefs are too good. And even if the Browns lose, there's no shame in it, unless they were to get trucked 48-0. I don't think that's going to happen, but I don't think the Browns are going to keep it close enough to cover. So I've got the Chiefs. Essentially, I have the Chiefs 34-24, something in that neighborhood.
I think the Browns cover. I think, if they lose, it'll be by a field goal. I think it's a pretty close game the whole way. And if the Browns are able to win the turnover battle, and I know I think the way they win is a turnover here or there, and taking advantage of it. If they win the turnover battle, I think they win the game. I think they may push the turnover battle, at which point I say the Chiefs win. I think the Chiefs are going to have a lot of trouble with the Browns front. I think the Browns are going to blitz a little bit with JOK, and I think that'll move Mahomes. There may be some communication breakdowns where the defense allows a big play or two, but I'm going with the Browns plus 5.5. All right, another one that we differ on is Denver Broncos at the New York Football Giants. Who you like in that one?
I like the Giants, but not robustly. The main reason is because they're at home. If this were in Denver, I would go with Denver. I'm going to lean toward the home teams, especially in the 2021 openers, because you didn't have fans last year, and when you did, they weren't that many. This year, you're going to have a distinct, you would think, home field advantage. And if there's ever a time for the Giants to cash a home field advantage, it's before they have hit the skids and before they're an awful team and the fans have tuned them out and left the stadium or booing them. So with the fresh start right out of the chute, and Teddy Two Gloves in Denver, yeah, I know Teddy Bridgewater, he's now a veteran and he beat out Locke, and he doesn't turn the ball over, but he's a dink and dunker, and I don't know that that's going to work necessarily. I respect Denver's defense, but I also saw the latter half of the year Denver was giving up plenty of points to certain teams. So I think the Giants have enough to hold serve, to win the game outright at home.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Broncos. I like Bridgewater. I like Cortland Sutton coming back. I like Jerry Jeudy. I like the rookie running back Javonte Williams, and I think the defense of the Broncos does enough to shut down the Giants. I think Saquon Barkley will be on limited snaps because they don't want him to take a full pounding, and I think that figures into it. I'm going to go with the Broncos -3. All right. Patriots and Dolphins, you're on this one. I do not have a pick on this one. Who do you like in this one?
I like the Patriots. I'm still bitter at the rest of the NFL, or at least the top half of the 2021 draft, for allowing Bill Belichick to get Mac Jones. I'm sitting here going, haven't you all watched what Belichick has done to you and how he's punked you for 20 years with Brady? You finally get out from under Brady. You don't have to worry about him in New England anymore. And you reward Belichick with was it 15, I believe it was?
Yeah.
15th overall pick, Mac Jones. What? You knew it. I mean, when he started falling past 5 or 6, you're like, please don't go to Belichick. Please don't go to Belichick. And sure enough, he's with Belichick. He comes from, Belichick's buddy Saban. You knew he was pro-ready when he got there. It didn't surprise me at all that he beat out Cam Newton. And Belichick is fuming because of his bad year last year, especially when Brady went to Tampa and took him to the Super Bowl. So he's itching to go. And I know Miami has given New England issues recently, and Brian Flores is a terrific coach. But Belichick at home in the opener with Mac Jones settling in, I think they win this game. I wouldn't say big, but by at least 7.
All right, and the last one that you have is the Bears at the Rams, -7.5. So the Rams 7.5-point favorites against the Bears, led by Andy Dalton. Quickly, who you taking in this one, and then I'll give you my final 2.
Always dangerous on a 7.5-point spread to go with the favorite. But I love the Rams in general. I love them, especially with Matthew Stafford. I don't like the Bears. I especially don't like the Bears with Andy Dalton. That's why I think the Rams win big.
Yeah, I understand that. So my other 2 picks, I'm going to go with the Packers -4 at the Saints. I like Jameis Winston. I just don't like him week 1. And I think Aaron – in Jacksonville. Fair enough. And I also like Aaron Rodgers to kind of settle down the whole, craziness that was the offseason for the Packers. The other one I'm going with the Falcons at home, 3.5-point favorites against the Eagles. And my reason is I'm very much against the Eagles. I'm not buying Jalen Hurts. I think Matt Ryan, and I saw Kyle Pitts up close in that preseason game, and I think he is going to be a handful. So we will keep track of this all season long. D-Man, as always, man, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
You got it. Thank you, Dave.
All right, the D-Man, Dennis Manoloff from WTAM 1100, 106.9 FM. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, what the opposition is saying. We'll hear plenty from the Kansas City Chiefs getting ready to face the Browns. Sports for CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine. Too late at night. But feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
Browns getting ready to do battle with the Kansas City Chiefs, Arrowhead Stadium, 4:25, the second game of the doubleheader spotlight. Andy Reid, who has that outstanding record in September and in openers, talked about the challenge of facing the Browns in Week 1.
Listen, we look forward to playing the challenge of playing the Browns. We know they're a heck of a football team, and so our guys start the preparation and get ready to play in a great venue here at Arrowhead. So we look forward to getting all our fans back in there and that place rocking. They made some changes on the defense in the secondary linebacker, and they brought in Cavanaugh. So and then they've got Odell back, and so it's one of the better receiving corps in the league, and they've got a real good offensive line, and tight end's good, and so and their runners obviously are good. One of whom we know very well. So and they're well coached. I mean, Kevin, I mentioned this the other day, but Kevin does a nice job, and Joe Woods on the defensive side does a nice job. So they've got they're a very well coached football team.
Andy Reid talking about the Browns, Kevin Stefanski, Joe Woods. He referred to Kareem Hunt, who used to play for the Chiefs as well. Well, Travis Kelce, Cleveland Heights native, talked about how excited he gets not only for the opener, but also playing the Browns.
This is outside of last year's playoff game. I feel like this has even more anticipation just because it's the first game of the year. We did meet up in the playoffs last year. The Browns have been getting a lot better and a lot better over the years, and now obviously they're a playoff team. They're a championship caliber team. So we just have to go out there and be ourselves, man. Execute, do our things. I'm always fired up to play football, man. My first jersey was a Bernie Kosar Browns jersey, so I'm familiar with the area. Obviously, I just got a lot of love for the fans and the family back home. But right now, I'm a Chief baby in this Chiefs kingdom.
After watching them over the years, is this the best team that you've seen that they've had?
Yeah, without a doubt.
And again, Travis Kelce remains very well connected to his alma mater, Cleveland Heights High School. So he is a Clevelander who's happened to be playing for the opposition, the Chiefs. All right. One of the biggest question marks for the Chiefs, offensive line. They have two veterans in Orlando Brown Jr. and Joe Thuney on the left side. Then you got center, right guard, right tackle, all rookies. Andy Reid talked about the challenges going against Garrett and Clowney and Malik Jackson and the Browns' veteran defensive line for that offensive line.
That'll be a fun one to watch because their interior players are real good too, and experienced. And it'll be a great experience for our guys to have the opportunity to play against them. being as young as they are. So, yeah.
Kevin Stefanski talked about sending waves of defensive players in just to get fresh. With your depth on the offensive line, how, when you think about what he said, does that change anything dramatically?
No, I think that's a pretty common thing from defensive fronts that we've seen. They'll do that. So they've got a good group of guys. I mean, they're good, healthy, two deep with good players. So, and so I'm sure I'd be surprised if they didn't do that. Yeah.
And there's obviously all extremely talented. We have veterans on the left side there that are Pro Bowlers, guys that have dominated in this league for a while now. And then we have young guys who came out of college and they were really good in college, and they've really picked up and learned the offense extremely fast. And I think that whole offensive line group, they've really brought out the best of each other. They've competed this entire camp, and I'm excited to go out there and show it off here at the Week 1 Arrowhead.
Again, that'll be a fascinating matchup, Chiefs offensive line, Browns defensive line. Well, Kevin Stefanski, second year in the system for this offense. Andy Reid was asked, how big of an advantage is it? How much growth do you expect in year 2 of an offense?
Listen, I've known Kevin for a while. He's a Philadelphia kid and was playing, Penn there, the whole deal. So, and went to the same high schools where my son, so I've watched him kind of grow up. Brad Childers hired him and so on. And the one thing he's always been is very thorough, and he's dedicated to the game, and he's a smart kid. So you can see that in his operation there, and he's done a very nice job with that.
Andy Reid talking about the system that Kevin Stefanski has and the growth expected in year 2. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we shift our attention to high school football as getting ready for another big weekend. Ryan Cavanaugh, analyst for Spectrum News 1's high school football, will join us, talk about a few matchups in Northeast Ohio. Sports for CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Tri-C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Welcome back to Sports for CLE. We turn our attention to high school football as week 4 of high school football getting ready to kick off. Some games tonight, most tomorrow or Saturday. Let's welcome in Ryan Cavanaugh, Spectrum News 1's analyst for high school football across the state. And Ryan, you're going to be at a backyard rivalry. Avon Lake always seems to be a pretty good showdown when the Shoremen and Eagles get together.
Yeah, this is an Ohio State-Michigan rivalry, Dave. This isn't going to be like a 3-touchdown game. How I know that is because I think in the last 5 meetings, it's been decided by a field goal or less. 2 of those games were in overtime. So every time these guys get together, it's a very evenly matched game. And part of the reason is the teams and their programs are so similar. Both teams similar, very efficient at the quarterback position. They establish their running game early and often. Defensively, they're always in the right place. They're technically sound. They don't miss tackles. All the way down to the coaches on the 2 sidelines. Avon's Mike Elder, Mount Union Purple Raider graduate, and Matt Kostelnik for Avon Lake, also an All-American at Mount Union. So I can't wait for Friday night. There's a couple interesting questions, Dave, to keep an eye on. One of those is for Avon Lake, who's going to play quarterback? The first 2 weeks, it was Jeremy Zick. Last week, Jake DePaul. And this is a double-edged sword. Number one for Avon Lake, when Zick is under, for the 2 games he played, he averaged 28.5 passes a game, only ran the ball 2 times per game. And with DePaul at quarterback, only 11 attempts through the air and 18 rushes. I say it's a double-edged sword because the Avon defense has to prepare for both of these quarterbacks, and it's a very different game plan. Obviously, the running back, Jason Krakowski for Avon Lake, is how they get it going on the ground. And defensively, linebacker Sam Federers and defensive end Avery Viancourt will have to have big games to slow down the Avon Eagles. They've got a little something to play for. They're looking for win 201 for their coaches. Last week, Mike Elder had his 200th career victory, a huge milestone, and 151 of those are at Avon. He's got an outstanding quarterback, Sam DiTilio. Last week, 11 of 15, 208 yards and 4 touchdown passes in a routing of Glenville. And that was a bounce back, Dave. They lost the week before against Medina. That was their first regular season loss in over 3 weeks. And one final thing about this game, if you want to see kickers and you want to see 2 of the best kickers in the state, they're going to be at Avon Lake. Owen Wiley from Avon Lake, he kicked a 50-yarder this year, and Nathaniel Vakos of Avon had a 45-yarder that had about 15 yards of extra space to go on that one. So if it comes down to a field goal, which it usually does, both of these teams are in prime position to convert.
All right, another game. Let's talk about West Geauga and Kirtland. Kirtland is always one of the small school powers in the state. Have been that way probably since Tiger Laverde got to Kirtland.
Yeah, and the reason I wanted to talk about this game, Dave, is exactly what you said. Division 5 Kirtland, who has won state championships at Division 6. Last year they won in Division 5, and they move up in the CVC, the Chagrin Valley Conference, into what the bigger schools are. So Kirtland will not play a team in their division. Everybody, including West G, is Division 4 or higher. Of course, West G is Division 3 team. They're used to playing this schedule. So in my opinion, this is the first real test for Kirtland to find out, do they have what it takes to compete in the upper division? When you're talking about Kirtland, you're going to see a lot of the similar things. It's not just Tiger Laverde and all his assistants on the sidelines that he's so familiar with. You've got a quarterback in Ramon Lescano, who is very efficient. He's an underrated passer. They don't need him to throw that much because their run game's so effective, and he'll be a piece of that. Mason Russ, undersized defensive linebacker who runs the football, and they've got GP3, George Prusak III. By the way, his dad was also a Mount Union football player. If I didn't have as much pride for John Carroll, Dave, I might have worn purple today with all the Purple Raiders I'm talking about. I couldn't do it. But for West G, Coach Laverde says that there's a challenge with this quarterback, Danny Stewart, and he's got 3 wideouts in Chris Ronaldo, Tori Stazzone, and Angelo DeCiccio. So he knows, Coach Laverde knows that West G can throw the ball, they can spread it around, and defensively, they've got Lucas Sadler, real imposing figure. There he is, number 52, plays offensive line as well. But he's going to bring that physical brand of football, and we'll see, can Kirtland, who has been so dominant in the lower divisions, can they step up and compete with the bigger Division 3 school like with West G rather?
Yeah, and you know what? I would not doubt the Kirtland Hornets. Would not doubt them at all. All right, this one is the most intriguing one in my mind in the area. Medina and STOW. Those are 2 really good football teams that get it done a little differently. This has the makings of a really good football game.
Absolutely. They're number one. I know we're only in 3 weeks. This is week 4. We've only played 3 weeks, but they are number 1 and 2 in the points in Division I, Region 1. And there's a reason for that. Obviously, both of them are undefeated. We talked about the kickers in Avon and Avon Lake. Well, you want to see 2 of the best quarterbacks in the state. Go check out this game. Owen Bainbridge from STOW, he's going to BGSU. And, of course, Drew Aller going to Penn State. Let's talk about these 2 quarterbacks first. They're very familiar with each other. They work out together in the offseason. Medina, with their spread offense, they throw it more. And when I say more, Aller has more than twice the attempts of Owen Bainbridge. He's got Drew Hensley. He's got Jawan Jackson and a bevy of receivers, and he's got an arm that can put it where he wants, when he wants. And he's been running as well this year, Dave. In week 1 alone, Aller had 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, 99 yards on the ground. So when you're looking at STOW defensively, how are we going to slow down Larry Laird's battling D's? You've got to be aware of the arm and the legs of Drew Aller. Owen Bainbridge, there's not many games where, he isn't the man you're going to see. And that's not, I'm not saying that people aren't going to want to see Owen Bainbridge. They are. It's just that Drew Aller's across the sidelines. Bainbridge has been outstanding last week, 15 of 25, 252 yards, 2 touchdown passes, 1 asterisk. He had 2 interceptions in that game. Now, they got out with a win against Solon, but against the high-powered offense of Medina, they're going to have to win the turnover battle, and they can't make mistakes, especially in the red zone. He's got running back, wide receiver Xavier Preston, running back Sal Ramito with a couple touchdowns last week, and wide receiver Jackson Norman. So both these teams have weapons. Both of them have outstanding offensive lines. Cleveland Heights and STOW have the biggest offensive lines, and they can move. So this is going to be a great matchup. We got some great games in week 4 here, Dave.
Ryan Cavanaugh, as always, buddy, appreciate the time and the insight. I'm sure we will look at week 5 next Thursday as well. Ryan Cavanaugh, analyst for Spectrum News 1's high school game. Appreciate it, buddy. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Ryan Cavanaugh. You can see him on the call of the Avon Lake game Friday night, Spectrum News 1. That'll do it for this edition of Sports 4CLE. We will see you again tomorrow, 4 o'clock. Scheduled guests, Jeff Risdon, Kevin Arnold. Of course, we're going to be talking plenty of Browns Chiefs. That's tomorrow at 4 o'clock on Sports 4CLE. Have a great night, everybody. We will see you tomorrow.